Hollow Knight is my favorite game of all time. It's a masterfully crafted indie game that combines intricate lore, engaging gameplay, and a compelling story. Its open-world aspect allows you to explore the kingdom of Hollowness to your heart's content and get completely immersed in the world. And this video will include spoilers for Hollow Knight. Ever since its release on February 24th, 2017, and the DLCs that followed, fans have been hoping for more from Team Cherry. Then, on February 14th, 2019, Hollow Knight Silksong was announced. It would be a sequel to the original, where you play as Hornet, a side character and boss from the first game in a new kingdom called Farloom. As I'm writing this part of the script on April 21st, 2023, we have still not received a release date for this game, but it may come out in the next 2 months. Before we get that theory though, let's talk about the long and complicated history of Hollow Knight Silksong. On the day Silksong was announced, we got our first trailer, and it was very standard for a new game. We got to see Hornet explore new locations, have new abilities, and a bunch of new enemies. We also got a lot of references to the Weavers, a tribe from the original games. And as Hornet's the playable character, she is part Weaver, and her mother was Hera, one of the 3 dreamers from Hollow Knight. It seems that Farloom has some sort of connection to the Weavers, so Hornet's past might play a big part in this game. And then in March of 2019, we got art of some new characters, and we learned that there would be over 150 new enemies to face. There wasn't a lot of information until E3 of 2019 that June, where we saw a demo for the game shown at the Nintendo Treehouse Live presentation. And we got to see quite a lot, including 2 new bosses, some new mechanics, and 2 new locations. This demo went more in depth on the mechanics we saw featured in the first trailer. Some of those being a new healing system, replacing Soul with Silk, which is used to use abilities and heal your player, crests, which are similar to the game's charms that give Hornets tools such as bombs or saws, a quest tab that shows the available side quests, which was not in the first game, and a currency called Rosaries, and the new fast travel system, the Bell Beast, which just replaced the Stag. Overall, this presentation was very informative and showed quite a lot about the game. It looked exactly like fans wanted to be a Hollow Knight sequel. Now, we didn't get much more until December of 2019, where Team Cherry released the game's soundtrack by Larkin, and that was really the last information we've gotten about the game. If you've made it this far, consider liking and subscribing before I talk about some of the reasons why we haven't gotten a lot more. It helps me out a ton, and it allows me to make more videos like this. This lack of information was jarring to fans, since we didn't hear anything until a PC Gamer article in February of 2022, a whole 3 years after the game's announcement, where Team Cherry's co-director William Pellin stated that the game would still be in development, and more would be revealed as we got closer to a release date. But we were not given a release date. Now, there are likely many reasons for the lack of information. To start, Hollow Knight is an indie game, and Team Cherry is not a big company. That we know of, there are only 3 employees at Team Cherry: William Pellin, Ari Gibson, and Jack Vine. There might be more, but we don't know them by name. And there are independent people who work with Team Cherry, such as Larkin, who, as I stated earlier, created the fantastic soundtrack. He's the composer. Another big impact on development was probably the pandemic. It must have obviously been hard for 3 people to work on a game as big as this in their homes for about a year, probably. And they likely wanted to make this the best game they possibly can, since the first Hollow Knight was a masterpiece, and it must not be easy to top. So they're definitely putting their heart and soul into this game. I don't think funding was an issue, since the sales of the first game would likely cover this, but I'm not the person to ask about finances. I mean, the original Hollow Knight was a Kickstarter campaign that started in November of 2014 and came out 2.5 years later, so it isn't likely the funding problems, it's more that they just want to make this the best game they can. It wasn't until finally, on June 12th, 2022, where there was an Xbox showcase, part of E3, and there was Silksong footage. It was later revealed that any game shown at that Xbox showcase would be available on Xbox platforms, whether it be through purchase or on Game Pass, in the next year. So that means Silksong would be available in the next year. So as I'm writing this, there's about a month and a half until that assumed release date. Now, there could have obviously been development issues, and it could have been delayed from that year time frame, but we haven't heard anything about it, and we also didn't hear any confirmation from Team Cherry about that year release, only from Xbox, so maybe Xbox didn't know what was really going on. Maybe it is going to come out in the next month and a half, who knows. But that was the history of Silksong so far. It's likely that Team Cherry is trying to create a fantastic games for fans to fall in love with, just like they did the original. So if that's the case, they can take all the time they need, because I'm going to play it no matter what. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed yourself.